This episode of the podcast is brought to you by our friends at Regrow, the premier cloud-based cannabis supply chain management system.
Regrow is designed by software experts passionate about cannabis and the success of the industry. The software company is built to automate manual tasks, reduce costs, and avoid shortages by creating dynamic workflows that maximize yields and increase profitability for your cannabis business. Think of Regrow as the single pane of glass view into your entire supply chain. They directly tie your SOPs to your cultivation plans. You can easily manage your inventory and workforce and vendors from one single system, and you can manage compliance across multiple licenses and states. So it's time to throw away those whiteboards, spreadsheets, and stop using email to manage your cultivation, distribution, and manufacturing processes, and visit Regrow's website at regrow.io. That's regrow.io. Regrow, the premier cloud-based cannabis supply chain management system. Hello, my fellow people of the plant. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Cannabinoid Connect podcast, your favorite podcast that includes industry-facing conversations with the industry's leading experts that aim to educate and inform the public regarding the plant's endless benefits. My guest today is Salvador Santana. He's the founder at VAYA. Salvador Santana, it's an honor to have you on, man. Thanks for joining us today.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you for having me. Grateful to be here.
Yes. Yeah. And, this is a first for the podcast because we haven't had an internationally renowned, artist and songwriter on the podcast, who, especially one who's in cannabis. So this will be for an interesting conversation today.
Oh, yeah. Right on that, for sure. Looking forward to it.
So tell me, your company, VAYA, right? Which we will, of course, dive into. And I want to learn about, the origin story and what the brand stands for. But let's talk about your background, Salvador. I recently talked with Rena Sherbel, and we always just kind of talk about different topics. She's the host of the Cannabis Investing podcast. And one thing she asked was, like, how should we address the topic of talking to our kids about cannabis, And you growing up in California, obviously the stigma there is less so than other states. And I mean, you grew up, your dad being Carlos Santana, right? 10-time Grammy winner, who obviously was an advocate and a consumer of cannabis. So two-part question here. Like, what was your experience growing up around cannabis? How were you kind of, brought into the fold? And how did your dad and others kind of, bring you along the way at such a young age?
That's a great question. And for me, I really got involved or just, learned about cannabis at a young age. Again, like you said, growing up in the Bay Area, specifically in California, and just California in general. And also my parents growing up in the 60s and being flower children, or that whole, peace and flowers, peace, light, love, and all that. It's always been, for me, cannabis has always been perceived more as medicinal, medicine and beneficial, than it has been like lethal, or compared to like other narcotics like, crack or heroin or anything like that. So from a young age, I've always had a different perspective on it. Now, of course, it's kind of like how maybe if you go over to like Italy or Greece or something, how, kids are sitting at the dinner table and maybe they'll have just a tiny scotch of wine.
Some wine, right? Yeah, I've heard that also.
Yeah, because it's traditional, and you take the taboo and you take the scary boogeyman monster out of it, and you try to teach your kids at a young age, especially for me, still being a new dad. I got a 2.5-year-old. I just want to instill in my son that, you have choices to be responsible, and how you be responsible, and how you carry yourself, and the decisions you make. Not only do they stick with you, but that's part of your character. So whoever and whatever you do, just be responsible and just learn as much and understand as much as you can, and try not to allow somebody else to, change your mindset more or less, or try to influence your mindset. So for me, my folks were always protective of me, and where I was and who I was with. Again, like you mentioned, being my father, being a musician, being renowned, and having a lot of, different characters, musician characters come through the band, or at the office, or even at the house, and what have you. Always conscious of that. However, my folks, and my dad specifically, did his very best to not try to instill any fear about it. Just keep it real, and also just let me know, hey, you're a kid, you know, play with your dinosaurs, you know, just enjoy being a kid, man. Just
Right.
enjoy being a kid, and that stuff will come later. And when it does, I'll teach you more about it, you know. And so for me, that upbringing really stuck with me, and I want that's one of the reasons why I wanted to get involved so much into the cannabis business, even before it became legal. Let alone in the U.S. and California, that was to make a difference in terms of changing the stigma, rearranging the narrative, if you
Hmm.
will, that, you know, oh, just because you smoke weed doesn't mean you can't be successful. It doesn't mean you can't be productive. It doesn't mean you still can't make a difference. People
That,
associate weed with laziness or unproductive. And I'm like, not the cats that I know, you know,
yeah.
these cats smoke hella weed and they get shit done, you know? So,
Dude, that point right there, I've heard that said in different ways from so many people that I'm close to, and it's so true. And I live my life that way. In fact, my best friend has said like he's up doing things after he smokes just to prove that narrative wrong. You know, because he's already kind of up and a motivated person and stuff, but he's even more so when he smokes. And it's such a misleading false claim, you know, that people throw out there, because that's so not true. Not all people who smoke weed are lazy and stuff, you know.
absolutely, and however your consumption choices and preferences are, it doesn't have to just be smoking. Now there's edibles, there's tinctures, I'm sure there's patches. I mean, there's pretty much almost everything that you can think of. And as the cannabis industry is growing and continue to grow, there's only going to be more inventive and more really cool things that are going to cool products and opportunities there. So
Yeah.
that for me has always been like the fun. Those challenges that are worth it. That for me is what's always got me up out of bed and been like, hey man, especially now that we've been a year full on, Gesundheit, since we've been
Thank
a
you.
year full on into this pandemic, for me as a musician, having to just kind of rearrange my whole landscape of how I work, how I'm able to provide for my family. Um, I was like, man, if I'm going to do this, this is the time to do it, because music, you know, performing in front of people, which I miss. I know we'll have an opportunity to do it soon, but in the
Yes.
meantime, it's like we either sink or we swim, man. We gotta adjust, or we just get consumed by what's going on, and we're stubborn and we're not going to make any adjustments or changes. So for me, I wanted to really, I still do music. I still obviously, you know, perform when I can, uh, but it's been mostly just working here. Grateful that I got a studio, I got a spot that I can write, create. I still provide a lot of music for film and television and offer my services here and there. But I was like, man, I gotta do something else. Like there's only so
Yeah.
much that I can do. And I really just wanted to go full on in, and linked up with a buddy of mine uh, by the name of Deji Simmons, and a cultivator out in Oakland, California. We linked up while I was doing a docu-series on me interviewing different cats and people just in the industry and what their experiences have been like.
Yeah.
We during the docu-series, during the interview, we just started talking off camera. Next thing we know, we're doing a partnership and what have you. So it's just, and he's Afro Latino, he's Afro Cuban, and don't let the skin tone fool you, man. I'm Afro Chicano. And
Right.
so that's what also is dope, because VAYA, the company, getting back to that, we're diversity at our core. From the heritage, like I was just saying, from our founders,
Right.
cultural references to our
Yeah,
producers.
I read that y'all are kind of focused on like the brand being really based in spiritual, have a spiritual feminist tone, but driven with that African heritage and the Mexican heritage as well, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Because for me, it's about giving. In order to move forward, sometimes you need to reference how it all started. You know, the genesis, or just going back to. For us, VAYA our our mantra. I don't even want to say slogan. Our mantra is ancient wisdom that meets modern medicine. And so basically, what we do is we take the ancient rituals, the ancient wisdom, the ancient uh, philosophies that were around cannabis all the way from the beginning of time, because cannabis is just as ancient as it's probably been around longer than people. Probably dinosaurs were, if you believe in that stuff. Dinosaurs were
Yeah.
probably eating that stuff and getting high, and who knows? You know, it's around high as
Right.
shit. That'd be hilarious. But you
That
know,
T-Rex with the small hands, you know, I could see that. Yeah.
that's a whole conversation in itself. But you know, like again, it's going back to honoring the plant in itself, and you alluded to the plant being feminine, being female. You know, the one that we consume. Hemp is the male plant. That's the one we can make products out of. We can't.
Right.
That doesn't do anything for you. The female plant, that's what gets you there. And so,
Feminized. Yep.
correct. So the plant is feminine. Where it grows, Mother Earth, that's feminine. And the word vaya itself not only means go, or a word of enthusiasm in Spanish, it also means women, empowerment of women in Sanskrit. So in doing research and finding the name for the brand that I wanted to be a part of and represent, I was like, man, it has to be as authentic as who I am and what I do, and the people that believe in what we're doing. It all just has to coincide. It all has to be cohesive, actually.
Right.
And so for me, that's who we are here at VAYA, and we promote human development through ritualistic approaches, and we want to basically enhance. We want to encourage the consumers to enhance their daily activities through whatever ritual and whatever rituals they have. You know, for me, it's getting up in the morning, making a little cup of coffee, and just sitting down, writing some music. Maybe I'll take a toke from last night's joint or whatever. But sometimes for me, it just depends on the mindset. And now that I'm a parent, I've definitely been a lot more selective about when I indulge, because I want to make sure I'm more times than not ready, you know, for whatever.
Right.
Having a toddler now running around the crib, man, you got to just be ready.
Right.
But it's a blessing, and that's what it all is for me. It's just making these adjustments and just being as cool with it as possible. And man, I'm just having a lot of fun, just learning and figuring all this stuff out. And VAYA is we've been getting a lot of great feedback so far with it. And in fact, this is my first interview I've had a chance to do since we've launched. Some of the stuff I did.
When did you launch?
We launched December 18th, just
Okay.
right before the end of that dumpster fire of a year, what we used to call 2020. But that was a blessing, because we were able to, at the beginning of the year, the pandemic, I was like, man, this is what I want to do. And it took a little bit, but I was like, man, in 9 months, I was able to launch something, you know, and not a lot of people.
And you know, that's the same. I mean, I can share that experience, because right when the pandemic hit, like at the end of March, is when I decided to launch this podcast. You know, it was the same type of pivot, but in something that I wanted to do because I was passionate about, and it's a lifestyle thing for me, right? I mean, cannabis is a part of my everyday life, so it just was a natural fit. It was a blessing, like you said.
Absolutely. And sometimes we don't realize that, you know, while we're going through it, we're like, man, why the heck is this happening to me? Or why, man, it's supposed to be easy. You know, why is it extra complicated just to get something done? That should be like 1, 2, 3, you know. But then I'm realizing, yo, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. If it's supposed to be extra, there's a difference. If it's complicated, however, the challenge is worth it, that's what's supposed to happen. If it's too complicated and you get to a certain point, you realize it's just not worth it, then it's up to the individual. It's up to ourselves to recognize that before we get too far in, before we get too in deep, you know, too deep into it. Right. So no, you're so right. And I'm just so, again, honored, blessed, grateful, and want to continue with that same momentum, willingness, and hunger to continue and build off and capitalize with what we've been able to do. We're almost sold out with just the stuff that we've been able to put out just a month and a half ago. So that lets me know people are digging it. And usually I say this for the end of the interviews, but I just want to mention too, like we want to make sure that people understand when they invest in VAYA, they're enabling the ability to create sustainability through community, and therefore generate profits or what have you to empower social equity and a community as well, Black and brown, specifically in California. Because for me, it's about, man, ever since it's been legalized, cannabis has been legalized, there's been a lot of predominantly white corporations coming in, swooping up, taking over, and just cashing out or what have you. And for me, I'm just like, yo, this has been going on since before I was born.
Right.
And activists, black and brown especially, but basically it's not even about just white skin, but it's that white mentality, that non-white, they've been supporting this and been and continuously still being incarcerated, being punished. This now while it's legal.
Right.
And I'm like, man, this just doesn't make sense to me. So I'm like, man, if I'm going to do this, it has to be about giving back to. It's got to be bigger than me. Yeah, making money and sustainability is where it's at, and that's how you are. That's how you're able to have longevity in this business. However, for me, I'm like, man, it's not just about me. It's about a community that deserves that credit.
Well,
Those activists, those people
and
that.
that's part, I mean, that's part of your brand though, right? I mean, you talk about VAYA kind of representing you and your heritage and your business partner and his heritage, but part of that includes like that whole social equity focus, undoing those wrongs to people of color, right, for so many years. So that seems like it's natural. It makes sense, a good fit for the brand.
It, I believe that with every fiber in my being, with my heart, and here's the other thing too. With and thank you for saying all that. With VAYA, the main questions I always have to ask myself, whatever I'm getting into, music, cannabis, even if it's changing my son's diapers, I don't know. It's the who, what, when, where, and why. And the most important one out of all of them, believe it or not, is the why. And for me, it's like, why? Why invest in VAYA? Why, Salvador, are you doing this? Why? And I'm like,
Right.
for me, it boils back down to, and Justin has heard me say this. People have heard me say this in the past, rather. But this Maya Angelou quote resonates with me, no matter whatever's going on. It's when people aren't going to remember you by what you said or even what you did. People are going to remember you by how you made them feel. And
That is so true.
and for me, like, I want to make sure that people, thank you for saying that. For me, people, I feel like I want them to remember me, not only through music and how if I could touch somebody impact their lives in a positive way, but I want them to remember that with VAYA as well. This is how VAYA will make you feel. With VAYA, you will feel chilled, you will feel blissed, you will feel healed, intrigued, you'll feel whole, inspired, entertained, informed, but most importantly, you as the individual will feel honored,
Yeah.
because the stigma of like, oh, I shouldn't be smoking, I shouldn't be hiding it from no, you're good, man. Just be you. You do you, and don't let anybody else judge you, because, man, seriously, most people that judge nowadays, their lives ain't that much better than
No.
yours.
And the tide of the judgment, it's particularly in the cannabis space, is coming to an end. Like, there's too much of a wave of content and data and testimonials that show more benefits than negatives to it. So those that rhetoric is going to be washed out soon.
Absolutely. And the more consistency that myself and yourself and the people that we interact with and hang out with, and those people come, and like ourselves and our peers, we come up in the cannabis industry, you're right, that stigma is going to be gone. And that, honestly, for me, man, if I can help contribute to that, I'm not saying that I would have honestly felt like my pops, like I won all these Grammys, like I feel good, I really do. But it doesn't mean the mission stops there. It's like, yo, you did
Right.
this, let's keep going, man.
Well,
Let's see what else you can
and
achieve.
that's a good point, Salvador, because like let's dive into that point, because I've also said that, and there's never this point in life where you, like, quote unquote, make it, right? Like even like you just said, your dad being a 10-time Grammy winner, you've seen your fair amount of success in both the music space now, in the cannabis space, the songwriting space, but the work doesn't end, right? Like it just, you reach a milestone and then you just keep moving forward, right? I mean,
Absolutely. It's not like in the movies where it's just like, oh, and then they lived happily ever after, an end scene, and then that's it. It's like, nah, man, you didn't see the arguments that happened after that. You didn't see all the drama that unfolded out. Life is a continuation, man. And each day presents a whole mixed bag of ups and downs, challenges, amazing moments. And uh, it's interesting. I'm going to misquote it. I just know off the top of my head I'm going to misquote it, but I think back to that that Jimmy V line that he said when he was at the ESPYS giving his speech, and he says, "Man, if you can have the most epic day of your life, it would involve laughing, laugh like so hard like your belly hurts, and then you cry like something happens and you're moved to tears, And then also you think something happens to the point where you're like, oh dang, I didn't even, wow, like if you can do that every day, like that's one hell of a day. And if you do
Right.
that for a week straight, that's one hell of a week, and so on and so forth. And I'll ever for
You
me,
know,
ever since my son was born, that's happened to me every single day, like straight up. And
I can't imagine. I don't have kids, but I've heard that, and I do
you got
believe
fur
it.
children. You got
You
fur
know,
children.
yeah, I got my fur babies, right? The
Yeah,
3 dogs. But you know what's interesting when you say these things, like you mentioned that quote about how you more so make people like what they remember how you made them feel as opposed to what you said or did. And then this example now of laughing and crying and thinking, right, and having that kind of moment. What's funny is that these plant-based medicines actually give these properties to you, like you know cannabis, while some people may say it makes you paranoid or whatnot, it really does kind of gut check you and make you think about how you're acting, what you're saying. It makes you be more thoughtful and more self-aware, I would say. um, and then you've got like psilocybin, right? That does all what you just said in terms of laughing and crying and thinking and wondering and kind of taking yourself out of the moment. So it's just interesting to see that these plant-based medicines are now coming into the scene, and they're talking about them in the sense of mental illness,
absolutely. And being an advocate of that, or being not to help promote mental illness, but to help rehabilitate as opposed to incarcerate or punish, and what have you. Because it's like, yo, okay, these people over here that got money, or these people over here that are cool, they can act cray cray and all insane and what have you. This person over here living on the street, down on their luck, what have you, but we got to treat them different and what have you. And I'm just like, yeah, I see it all the time. We've seen it since we were since we was kids, and we saw it when we were on the playground. Why are these kids picking on this guy over here, or what have
right?
you? And for me, I'm just like, man, I guess for me, honestly, I've always been pro equality, because my folks have preached that. My grandparents have preached that, especially being um, black and brown. Mexican on one side, where my grandparents, with my dad and his 6 brothers and sisters, crossed the border to come over here so that they can have a better life. And then my grandfather coming out here uh, from New Orleans or from Louisiana, uh, and coming out, and his ancestors come over here on a slave ship and what have you. So for me, I'm doing my best to remind myself of who I am, who my family is, first and foremost, who I am, where we come from, where I come from, and to, again, like with VAYA, we take it back in order to move forward, so we can
Right.
understand how we got here and where we're trying to go. It's like almost like I'm just trying to put a GPS with a confirmed destination, with my business plan, and to stick to it, because I think the authenticity is what helps, not even just sell the product. It's what helps people understand, like, yo, this is worth investing, because
Right.
we understand who Salvador is, where he's coming from. He ain't BSing. If anything, I'm still a student. I'm still learning, but I have the willingness to figure it out and want to move forward, but also stick to who I am, and what got me here. So
Right. Yeah, no, it's so important. And I love that analogy. You talk about the GPS, right? And yeah, you need to have some type of like North Star that you're heading toward, right? Or
yeah,
some direction. Obviously in business, there's going to be variables that come your way that you're never expecting, like COVID being one.
yeah,
But in some cases it could be good. Good for for certain cases, like in a way, the pandemic was a shot in the arm for the industry. We saw more consumption,
right.
um, less. I guess it was kind of almost comparable to alcohol consumption at one point.
Yeah,
And just kind of now is opening the discussion about economic recovery when it comes to tax revenue purposes. And
yeah,
making
yeah.
states adult use. So
Yeah. It's interesting how we went from like, oh, this will never be legal, it'll never work, to like, yo, who knows? Maybe Wells Fargo and Goldman Sachs, those, that you never know. They might invest stock, or they might invest in some of that stuff, because and that's something that I think my father said once in an interview a long time ago. He's like, yo, I avoid saying these 2 words nowadays: always and never. You never
right.
know. And I've been doing my best to avoid saying, "Oh, I'll always do this," or "I'm never gonna." Nah, man. I mean, there's three things that you never gonna see me do. Never gonna do heroin. Never gonna get on a. It's the three H's: heroin, hogs, and helicopters. You ain't gonna see me doing any of that stuff. So that's a guaranteed never. Everything else, man, hey, I just take what life gives me. You know,
Yeah.
I used to take boxing a little bit, and my teacher always told me, just don't anticipate what your opponent's gonna do. Just roll with the punches, literally. And that's how life is, man. Life is just gonna come at you, and you just have to trust yourself to be able to react and handle what you're gonna handle, what's in front of you. Uh,
Yeah.
Especially in an ever-changing business like we just talked about in the cannabis industry. And then last but not least, you said something earlier about cannabis, psilocybin, and all these different drugs and the effects that they have. No matter what somebody indulges in, it's only going to enhance their personality. So if they cool, if they chill, or whatever mood they in, it's only going to enhance that, let alone what type of person they are. So like for me, if I'm in a chill mood and I just indulge in an indica or a specific type, it's just going to mellow me out that much more. And I just have to be in a place to be like, all right, I got work to do, so I can't do too much. I just got to moderation. You got to just, monitor it. But then there's some people, man, maybe they should smoke or should indulge in cannabis, but then at the same time, it's like, yo, they already an asshole to begin with. And we don't need to name any names. I'm sure we've got a few people along
You
the
know
way.
what though? That those are the real extreme assholes though, because like
Yeah,
even the regular asshole, if he consumes, they mellow out. You know what I mean? Like you got to
right.
really be working at not being happy to be still unhappy when you've smoked when you don't normally. You
I
know?
I totally agree with that. I think for me nowadays, especially, it just takes way too much energy to be bitter. It just takes
Yeah.
way too much energy to be angry.
Because when you smoke, you think about, man, that was really stupid that I was like upset about that, or you kind of self-reflect, some of the times, and
Absolutely.
that's just funny. You're so right.
Absolutely, and then also too, it's a great distraction or a way to refocus. So if something's going on, I can just indulge a little bit, and then I'm grateful and I'm blessed and super grateful to just come in here to my studio and just write or just work or even just noodle around and just practice. I call it taking my fingers for a walk since I'm a pianist, keyboardist, drummer first, but pianist is my main axe. I just love coming in here and just taking my fingers for a walk, listening to the man, late, great, amazing Chick Corea, and just listening to getting lost in some of his music, and of course Herbie is that's my goat, and what have you, and just listening to the musicians and what have you, because that also reminds me, like, yo, cannabis is a passion, but at the end of the day, you're a musician, and your
Right.
job is to make music that again, like what Jimmy V was saying, it's supposed to move people to tears, make them laugh, make them feel feelings, because music is, I feel like, what feelings sound like, and
Hmm.
it's up to me to be able to offer that and remind people that it's totally cool to be in your feelings and to vibe out how whatever you're listening to vibe out with it.
Do you find that like certain strains that you smoke, because obviously you being in California, adult use state, you can have a variety to select from. Do you find that some strains make you more creative than others, and do you kind of look for those when trying to write music?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I'm definitely more of an indica guy because I've been indulging pretty much my my entire life, my entire adult life.
Same, yeah.
So I've pretty experienced. I'm not maybe on the level of Snoop and like Willie Nelson or the Los Lonely Boys, but I can keep up with those cats, or like Action Bronson. I can keep up with those cats. But for me nowadays, again, especially since I've been a parent the last few years, I've been doing my best to just indulge when I can so that I can enjoy it and not just like toke. Oh shoot, I got something to do and then I can't enjoy it. That's like what Dave Chappelle said. Yo, don't talk to the cops while you high. That's a waste of weed. Like
No,
you know
that's such a good perspective, man. That's actually because you appreciate it more, right?
exactly, no doubt.
Yeah, like you look forward to it at the end of the day. In fact, someone told me that one time because I was in college and we would work out and I would smoke before the workout. And the guy'd say, why do you smoke before? He's like, you should work out and then look forward to smoking after sitting on the couch. And that's a good point because your muscles are all, pulled and you're sore. And like, that's a good kind of recovery, in
That
some
makes
ways.
sense. I'm gonna actually do that next time. Next time I work out, I'm gonna try it after and see what happens. That's a good.
Yeah. So
So, but
you
yeah,
gotta Let me know. Yeah.
No doubt. We'll do. But yeah, man. And again, just, you know, between music and cannabis and then my family and just everyone being, uh, it's just all coming together. And the one thing I can't, I'd be remiss if I didn't say this in this interview is like, I cannot, uh, give my family, my friends, the people that I'm in business with as well. They're showing hella support, like a lot of support. I'm trying to think what hella would be equal to in
I know
Texas.
what hella means. I know what hella means. Come on, man. But let me think of another translate word for Texas.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Well,
huge. I don't know. I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. Well, everything in Texas is big, but like no, but for real, like it just helps a lot to be able to do what you do and go through and then not have the challenges of people not supporting, people that are close to you not supporting you, people on the internet, people I don't know. They can say all that stuff they want. I've learned how to become more bulletproof with that stuff.
Yeah, block that stuff out, man. There's so many keyboard warriors out there that just want to ruin your day. It's crazy. They literally just make their whole objective that. So, you know,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
they haven't addressed things that they're internally kind of facing. So I would just
I do. Absolutely. Thank you for that. I totally do. And if anything, I just counter them by saying, yo, instead of using all that, because it's all energy, man. Instead of channeling all that energy and being bitter and typing, why don't you use that talent to like make some art? Or why don't you use
right.
that talent to like
Be
go.
productive. Add
There you go.
value, not noise, right? Yeah.
There it is. I love that. That's a beautiful quote right there. And so for me, that really helps, man. I know it sounds cliche, but it really does. Like having the family, having business or close friends, and then business associates back you and like tell you like, yo, what you're doing that's inspiring. It's cool, and we don't see a lot of that, Salvador. And somebody in your position, coming from the musical family that you come from, also just being that having that well-known last name, people having these preconceived notions and ideas of who you are and what you're doing or what you're about, and then they see me doing this and talking about cannabis and VAYA and how again it's coming back to social equity, sustainability, community, and we don't just talk about it. We, like Migos, we don't just talk it, we walk it. And I think that's what people are most interested in as well. And then from there, wanting to get to know the VAYA itself and what we're able
Yeah.
to offer. So right now, VAYA, we're able to offer, we got 4 strains, since you were mentioning strains. We got our sativa, we got our sativa hybrid, we got our indica, and and we got our indica. It's not a hybrid, it's a concentrate. So it's basically this really super high grade indica. It's called Moon Rock, and then uh,
Nice. I've
we
heard of
were
Moonrock.
able, yeah, and we were able to basically add the same type of ingredients that go in dabs, and what have you, and then basically able to marry that together. Uh, and this last batch that we got of the Moon Rock, yo man, this stuff tested at just over 41%.
What?
Yeah, it's unheard of. Like I've never.
That's why I'm saying what? Because the highest that I've ever seen is like 29, like maybe 30, 41. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
the one before that, the one we put out that's almost close to selling out. That one was just above 37, and that was like you just take a little pinch of that and put it in a joint or put it in whatever, man. You are good. We seriously, in hindsight, yo, we should come out with like an instruction booklet or a warning label that says, yo, make sure you got nothing to do for the next 3 to 6 hours because you will be on your ass. Like,
Is and it's just those strains, right? Because you guys are you guys all products are high potency or not all of them?
No, well, they're all different levels of potency, but they're all high grade. Like for me personally, and like yourself, we've indulged for quite some time. We would be known as connoisseurs or aficionados, or we about that life. And so for me, being part of VAYA and a company, I want to make sure that what I'm indulging in, I stand by it. I'm
Right.
not just putting that stuff out there. Oh, it's got Salvador's name. Oh, it's got Santana's name on it. Oh, it's this. And then you smoke it and you're like, or indulging it and you're like, man, this stuff is crap. Like this is
Right.
crap, And for me, I'm just like, nah. First of
But
all,
if they're thinking that, they don't know you, right? Because that's not your brand. Your brand is a connoisseur. You want the best stuff. You want the high quality, right?
man, I appreciate you saying that. I believe that. However, I've when I was first coming up as a musician, somebody, a mentor of mine at the time, reminded me that whenever you're playing at a show, even if I was playing the Viper Room, every week or something like that, there's always going to be somebody new in the audience that's never heard of you, never seen you, doesn't know anything about you. So you always have to be in that position to reintroduce yourself and be consistent, and therefore be authentic. And so that's what I do my best to do, is just to be consistent, be authentic with integrity, and to not just talk about it, walk it and be about it, as well. And again, that for me, I think, is also helping rearrange the stigma of just people that affiliate themselves with cannabis. Because again, people are like, "Oh, you smoke weed? Oh, you must be lazy as fuck." It's like, no, I'm the opposite. In fact, I don't have time to be lazy. I got a kid, I got a business to run. I'm trying to figure out how to just, I got a wife and I got family to take care of, and I'm committed. I want to,
Right.
but no, I don't have time to do all that stuff. And like we were talking about before, it's not up to me to talk to every single troll on the internet and try to convince them of who I am. It's like, I just let my work, and I let my work and I let my results do the talking as well. And at the end of the day, for haters or for supporters, we got something for everybody, And last but not least, this next time around, we are not hope, we are moving towards at VAYA to increase our product menu. So we definitely look forward to having some more, not just flower. We look forward to having offering some more products and opportunities on the menu, as well. So people can be on the lookout for that. That's at vaya.earth, at vaya underscore floor. And and for my music, Salvador Santana, salvadorsantana.com.
Nice, nice. Well, hey man, I really appreciate it. I can obviously tell you're very authentic, and everything that you believe in terms of social equity and standing by a high quality product, it resonates through your brand via and just really excited to myself get an opportunity to try it. And yeah, man, I look forward to seeing all that you're going to be doing in the future. What do you want to leave the audience with before we wrap up?
Normally I say that Maya Angelou quote at the very end. So this time I'm gonna have to freestyle something. Again, like with that VAYA, well, first and foremost, I appreciate you having me. It's
Of
been a
course.
blessing and an honor to be able to talk about cannabis, not only at this platform, which is a super high honor as well, but then to also be able to have this conversation and it not be so like, oh, we should do it in closed doors, or the camera should be off, nobody should be listening, kind of thing. Like, now we can make this public and actually keep it real,
Yeah.
talk to people about it. So first and foremost, thank you for that opportunity to be able to come on the show, talk to
Anytime.
you. And yeah, absolutely, I definitely look forward to inviting you to, anytime you're out in Cali, man, come on through. We got you. We'll hook you up with some stuff, and I'm hopefully, man, Texas and some of the other states will catch on and understand, there's more opportunity than there are obstacles, with
Right.
this, with
Yeah.
cannabis. So,
No,
but
I mean,
until then, yeah, we'll
no,
got you.
I appreciate that, man, very much. Thank you for the kind words. And my wife and I have been wanting to get out to Cali, so we will definitely take you up on that. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And wherever you guys are, everybody listening to, y'all stay safe, mask up and just be safe for your loved ones, for everybody. We're gonna get through this, man. And in the meantime, we got cannabis to help us get through all this, So
Amen to that, brother. Hey, well, thank you so much again, Salvador. And I do want to have you on again as the industry progresses and you're doing, your company continues to grow. So let's run it back real soon.
hey, looking forward to it. Absolutely. Thank you so much, brother. Appreciate you. Peace out to
Cool.
the puppers.
Yes. Thanks. And thanks for listening, guys. Bye.